There, Derek Rydall here, founder of the Law of Emergence and author of the best-selling books Emergence and the Abundance Project. And I want you to stay tuned. March 30th, you're going to see a big announcement. I'm going to be releasing a really powerful training that's going to help you to really deal with the challenges we're in right now so you can develop an abundance mindset and a mastery over your ability to manifest your deepest needs no matter what conditions you face. So definitely pay attention and stay tuned for that. If you're not already part of my community or my list, just go to derekrydall.com and check out the free resources, get something for free, and then we'll be able to notify you. You can also just click on the link above here on the video and get the free self-mastery training, which is a deep dive free self-mastery training. I'm going to touch upon some of the points today. And then you'll also get notification when this abundance training comes out. What I want to talk about today is the 7 steps for surviving and succeeding in scary times. And we are indeed in scary times right now. It's challenging. There's a global pandemic, there's an economic downturn, and it will get worse for some people and maybe for a lot of people. But for individuals that are truly understanding universal principles, that is, principles that are not based merely on conditions. It's the principles that produce the conditions. When you're living conditionally, you are a victim of conditions. When you live principally, you have agency, you are proactive, and you are able to produce results regardless of conditions, and then you transform and transmute your conditions. You become a light in your world and the rest of the world. You literally become the tip of the evolutionary spear. And then your conditions get better, and then your life makes other lives better, and on when you're living by principle versus by conditions. So we're going to talk about some of these core principles today, and I want to invite you to share your thoughts, your feedback, and if you're here live, and I can maybe potentially answer some questions later on in this training. But the first principle that I'm really bringing forward now even more than ever is the need to live now. Now, I know you've heard that, the power of now and all of that, and it's almost a cliche, but I'm going to explain why this is so important, and I talk about this much more in depth in another one of my videos here, so please check it out, how to escape that you're living in a simulation and how to escape it. So you want to definitely check out that video where I really explain and break down in ways that was blowing people's minds, literally. And that's exactly what it's meant to do, is blow your mind so you can get out of your mind and be in reality. Because your mind is designed to be in time, to be a simulation, and ultimately you think your mind is what you're supposed to be using to solve problems and think, but it's really meant to be an avenue of much deeper realization. But many people are caught in a simulation. They're caught in the past, which is only a memory. They're caught in the future, which is only a fantasy. And they're caught in the present, which is mostly imagination. And past, present, and future, memory, imagination, and fantasy are the simulation of our mind that we are caught in a loop of. And it produces our conditions and experiences. Then we look at our conditions, which are a projection of our internal perceptions, and then we react to them, and then we make them worse or better in some cases, but usually worse. But we're still caught in a simulation. We don't have real agency. We're not really able to live the life we were born for and to fulfill the inner potential that is planted in the soil of our soul. So we have to learn how to become present now. Let go of the tenses of time. And I even invite you to take a breath into your heart with me and just release the past and the future and even the present conditions. Just feel your shoulders drop. And feel yourself let go of the tenses of time. Feel yourself just release and relax into now. This now. Because in this now, there are no problems. In this now, there is no lack. You have the breath. You are aware of the breath. You are aware. You are awareness itself. And there is no problem. There's only a problem when you go into the simulation of the mind, when you look at the stories and the conditions, and you make up stories about the conditions. All problems exist in time. And the more you can live truly now, this now, you become extemporal. You step out of time, and problems don't exist there. And I'm going to talk a little bit more about that. So you want to be now. And then as you get more now, you can begin to become more available to what is that seed pattern of purpose and potential planted in the soil of your soul. What is the vision that's trying to emerge as you? What is life up to as you? It's very hard to get in touch with that when you're so focused on past and future and conditions in the present, and you're coping and protecting and defending and negotiating and managing and manipulating. There's so much noise. There's so much busyness. There's so much movement. There's not enough stillness and silence to listen and hear the still small voice of your heart and your soul that is always speaking, that is always guiding and directing, because all of life is conspiring to fulfill the seed of potential in you, like it does to every seed in nature. But unlike nature, we have metacognition, which means we can think about what we're thinking about. We can think about past and future. And so we create all this static on the line of this divine broadcast. And we cannot hear what life is saying to us. And we cannot feel what life is trying to give to us. And then we cannot receive and allow what life is trying to be as us to emerge. So now, once we've gotten a little quieter, a little more still, a little more now, we begin to ask the question, what is the greatest vision for my life? What is life trying to be as me? Or you could ask, what do I most deeply, deeply desire to have, to be, to do, to create, to contribute now, this year, over the next several years? You begin to tap into the vision. Where there is no vision, the people perish, as it says in Proverbs. It doesn't say they have a bad day. It doesn't say they don't lose those last few pounds. It says they perish. And if they don't literally die, they become part of the walking dead. That's why there's so many zombie movies and TV shows and graphic novels, because it's a metaphor for the zeitgeist of our times. And I will dare say it was some of the preconditions to the predicament we are now in a global pandemic, is a lack of vision. Most people have bigger flat screen TVs than they do a vision for their life. Most people spend more time, energy, self-reflection, and contemplation on figuring out how to use their mobile phone or figuring out how to get more likes on their Instagram than they do on figuring out what their vision for their life is. What life sent them here for, what they're really made of and made for. And hence, most people are woefully underprepared to take advantage of life's grace and gifts, and when crisis hits. But not you anymore. Vision. You're going to stop being a problem solver merely and become a vision holder. And I'm not saying you don't deal with the issue at hand. You don't be good stewards. You don't take good care of yourself and your family. Absolutely. But you must understand that you have to be living from something bigger than your conditions. You cannot solve a problem at the level of thinking the problem was created at, as Einstein said. You cannot solve any problem actually at all unless you're living at a higher frequency of it. Problems aren't solved. They dissolve as you evolve. You evolve by being an evolutionary being, by having a vision that's bigger than yourself and a bigger than your problems. Because your inner potential is always greater than any problem you face. But if you're only facing the problem and you think that's bigger than you, then your perception of yourself and your expression of yourself is always going to be less than the problem. You understand? You have to start telling stop telling your little God about your big problems and start telling your little problems about your big God. You have to stop worrying what you're facing and tell the problems that are facing you to start worrying what they're facing. Because what they're facing is the very face of God, the face of love, infinite possibility and power and potential. But you can't step into that by being a problem solver. You have to be a vision holder. You can't step into that by being a worrier. You have to become a warrior. You have to remove your wishbone and get a backbone. And that's what I'm trying to help you do today, is build your backbone. Lay down a real spine for your life. And it starts with getting present now, with having a vision for your life that is tapping into your deepest heart's desire and passion, your creativity and inspiration, by asking more beautiful questions like, who and what am I really, and why am I alive? What is life up to as me? What is the greatest vision of my life? If I could truly be who I want to be and do, create, and contribute at the highest level, what would that look like? What would that feel like? And then you begin to write that down, craft that into a present state affirmative vision statement that inspires you, that lights you up, that fuels you, that fires you up. Okay? And then that will lift your frequency, that will expand your energy, that will lift you above the frequency of some of your problems. You know, if you have ice, you're living at 32 degrees or lower. No amount of problem solving is going to get rid of the ice if you still live below 32 degrees, right? You spray it with a bunch of hot water, you're just going to end up with more ice, a bigger problem. That's what most people experience. But if you raise your temperature, what happens to the ice? You don't solve it, it just dissolves. Why? Ice can't live at a higher temperature, at a higher frequency. This is also why Einstein said, arrows of hate have been shot in my direction many times, but they no longer touch me because they come from a world I no longer inhabit. Right now, with all the craziness going on, you get to make a choice. Are you going to live in the world of pandemics and economic crashes and worry, doubt, fear, and conspiracy theory and all of that, which is a relative, temporary, distorted projection of a very limited collective perception? Or are you going to live in the world of love and life and truth and possibility and abundance and unity? Because that world is actually real and it is unchanging, whereas the world of appearances is temporary and always changing. So are you going to just be a feather on the wind of that, just tossed about through the turbulent times? Or are you going to be rooted in solid ground? The ground of your own being. That's what a visionary is. That's what a real leader is. Whether it's the leader of your own life, of your family, of your company, your business, or your community, or whatever. If you want to be empowered, you must become a leader. To become a leader, you must have vision, must be a vision holder, seeing, feeling, and living from vision more than you are reacting to conditions. Okay? Now, the next key thing is congruence. In order for that seed in the soil to blossom and grow, the soil has to be cultivated to be congruent. It has to be congruent with that pattern of the seed, okay? And so if that needs a certain kind of water or light or food or a lack of light, and you're not cultivating the soil to be congruent with that, that pattern will not emerge or it will not thrive. Well, the same thing is true with you. As you begin to open up to the life of your dreams and you visualize it and you articulate it and whatever that may be, you know, you are a successful teacher, healer, thought leader, parent, in beautiful relationship, have an abundance, all needs met, whatever your vision is, as you have that, you now have to begin to identify by visualizing and imagining, if I was living that, how would I feel? How would I think? How would I speak? And what would I do? Or how would I act? In other words, the habits of thinking, speaking, feeling, and doing. Thoughts, feelings, words, and deeds. And you begin to articulate what are some of those. And then you have to begin to develop those. Now I'm kind of combining two principles here, two pieces here, the congruence piece and turning that into a practice. The first piece is congruent. So you have to get clear who would I be? How would I feel if I was living that life? The who would I be is critical because you don't get what you want, you get who you are. That's why Gandhi said you must be the change you want to see. Okay? It's about who you're being that determines what you get or what you experience, because life doesn't happen to you, it happens through you, it comes from you, it emerges out of you. You are an emergent being in an emergent universe. So if you want more, you have to be more. You have to circulate more. You have to allow more. You have to activate more of your innate being. Okay? So if your vision is to be a successful fill in the blank, thriving, happy, etc., you have to ask, who would I be if I was living that life? How would I feel? How would I think? How would I speak? How would I act? And begin to articulate that. And then, and by the way, what I want you to understand why this is so critical is I give you the example of the seed, but I want to give you another example I share often, which is the radio broadcast. Your music is playing on a certain station and your favorite music right now, but you can't hear it. It's not manifest because your radio isn't tuned into that frequency. This is nothing woo-woo about this. The minute you tune your frequency into the frequency of where that favorite music is playing, that station becomes manifest. In other words, you have a manifest station. Okay? So that, where was that music before you tuned in? It was right here. It's not down the street, it's not in the future, it's right here. But it's only manifest when you are tuned in. This is true about every quality of existence. This is why Jesus said, behold, the kingdom of heaven is at hand now. It's not going to be low here, low there. It's not going to come in the future. Lift up your eyes and behold, the fields are white unto the harvest. The cattle on 1,000 years are yours. Stop worrying about tomorrow. Be still, turn within, connect with it. It's already here, guys. Having eyes, you can't see it. Having ears, you can't hear it. He was trying to teach them a new sense, a soul sense, to tap in and tune in to the kingdom of reality, to nirvana, to what Plato what we now call the Platonic forms, to what quantum physics would call the field of the realm of pure potentiality. It's not neutral. There are seed patterns, there are qualities, and they're all here broadcasting now. Love is here in abundance. Joy, peace, abundance itself, supply itself, wisdom, genius, mastery, masterpieces. It's all right here, omnipresent in this moment. But we only get to experience it and express it to the extent that we are in integrity with it, tuned into it. That's why congruence is the key. That's why it also says in the Bible that if you're serving God and mammon, meaning God or spirit or invisible and matter or material or love and fear, you become a house divided. And that house cannot stand. There's no integrity. So it's like trying to tune into K-L-A-C-K, K-lack, because you're afraid, and then tune into K-rich, K-R-I-C-H, because you want to be inspired, and then you get afraid again, and you go back to K-lack, and then back to K-rich, and then down to Killjoy, and then up to K-joy, and there's static on the line, and you never get tuned in. Okay, so this is so critical, because there's nothing lacking where you are. No matter what's going on in the world, there's nothing actually lacking where you are. But if your vision isn't big enough or clear enough, and if your thoughts, words, deeds, and actions, thoughts, words, feelings, and actions, okay, I knew I'd get it. If those aren't all aligned, or at least somewhat aligned, then it's like there's all of this energy coming through and your channels are closed, right? So that's what I'm trying to help you understand about congruence. Now, the next piece is you have to now take that and turn it into a practice. And that means as you identify, how would I think if I was living the life of my dreams? How would I feel if I was living the life of my dreams? How would I talk and walk if I was living the life of my dreams? And you've written some of that stuff down. Now you got to actually build a practice so that you do it consistently, and you do it whether you like it or not, whether you feel like it or not. You're building a practice, because then that becomes a habit. And so that means you may be going through the day, and instead of reacting to challenges with the belief, oh my God, why is this happening to me? It's not fair, it's not gonna work, which is not congruent with the life you wanna live, but you realize the thought belief you would have, or the habit would be, what's the good in this? What's possible? Everything is working together for good. All of life is conspiring for me. All of my needs are met. You have to practice that thought until it becomes more and more habitual. And then if you tend to have a predominant feeling of sadness or fear or anger or grief, then, or constriction or lack, then you have to stop every day, and sometimes throughout the day, and breathe, get into the present, get into the now, and visualize or do whatever you can to feel the quality you're trying to embody more of. I call it the 1 minute mystic. You stop every hour for a minute, and sometimes for longer. And then over time, a subjective groove is cut, and that emotion, that feeling tone becomes fundamental to your being, becomes a new part of your signature frequency. And then you have to notice, what kind of conversations am I having? Obviously to yourself, that's the mental conversation, but also to others. Oh my God, it's terrible out there. It's going crazy. It's raining cats and dogs. I'm starting to learn, got to practice my zombie apocalypse, ninja tricks, whatever it is. If you are having conversations, you have to ask, is this the kind of conversations I would be having if I was living the life of my dreams? Now, again, I'm not saying you don't have important conversations. If you got to get toilet paper, get toilet paper. You know what I'm saying? But fundamentally, what are the conversations you're in a loop on? What are you most often talking about? If it's mostly about problems, lack, worry, doubt, and fear, just know that's the habit you've created. That's the station you're tuning into. That's going to determine what you think and feel and ultimately do. And lo and behold, you will not thrive. And in some areas, you'll barely survive, because you're tuning yourself in to the collective consciousness of lack, limitation, fear, doubt, worry. And it is done unto you as you believe. What you see is what you get, because that's what you're seeing, therefore that's what you're reacting to. So you have to, again, be the vision holder. Practice thinking, feeling, speaking, and then ultimately doing in a way that's more and more congruent with the life you want to live and the person you would be if you were living it. Now, I understand there's certain limitations right now, and depending on when you're listening to this, there could be certain limitations always. Maybe you want to be in great health and you're in a wheelchair or lying on your back. You're not going to be able to go practice basketball or jogging around the block, but you can practice some of those dimensions. There's 4 quadrants to your character: habits of thought, habits of feeling, habits of speaking, and habits of doing. Okay? So you can practice any of those. And if you can't do one, doing some of the others is more than enough. Okay? So then finally, you got to put all this together into a real plan. A vision without a plan is a fantasy, and a plan that's not on your calendar is wishful thinking. Okay? And I know perhaps now with what's going on, you don't have a whole lot to do, but you'd be surprised how unproductive people become when they're used to some structure at work and now they suddenly have none. Actually, it becomes more difficult to focus, more difficult. And especially when there's all kinds of fear and concern, it becomes more difficult to focus. Now more than ever, you need structure. I don't mean rigid rules, but some structure so that you know what you're going to do. You're going to take some time to work on your vision. You're going to take some time to articulate who you'd be in all of those quadrants. You're going to take some time to build a real practice and a plan. You're going to actually map it out so you know what you're doing throughout the day. It'll create sanity. It'll create consistency. It'll It'll actually make you feel productive, and it'll activate joy and confidence. And it will do all these other things we're talking about, and it will set you up for thriving, and it will set you up to catch the emerging wave of possibility as things evolve and change. So you'll be positioned as markets turn and businesses reopen and people need new goods and services and love and support, including your family. You'll be the best positioned to leverage all of that opportunity to serve and share and succeed and make an impact. And then 7 is, and I don't know if I've mixed some around, but there were 7 core points here, is in case of emergency, go back to number 1. Stop, breathe, become present now. And then rinse and repeat these steps. Now, I created a free training for you. So if you want to get the free training on self-mastery, which goes through these 7 steps much more in depth, just click on the link on the video above, and it says emergencetraining.com/self-mastery-breakthrough. If you're just listening to this, Emergence, EMERGENCE, training, emergencetraining.com/self, SELF-mastery, MASTERY-breakthrough, BREAKTHROUGH. Emergencetraining.com/self-mastery-breakthrough. Get that free training. Get it now. Put it to work. Share with me how it's working and however else I can love and support you. And until next time, remember, live authentically, love unconditionally, and keep following your destiny.